Okay, well, thanks everyone for showing up. This is a presentation that we'd like to do on the Hood River that we did last summer, last July. The trip participants, you'll see us all be introduced in a few minutes. But before we get too far on there, sorry, trying to figure out where my mouse is here. Okay. Before I go too far, I wanted to begin by acknowledging that the trip we're describing took place on the traditional territory of the Inuit of Nunavut, the Inuit Nunangat, and in the territory of the Nunavut Agreement. We pay our respects to the Inuit who have walked this land since time immemorial, whose cultural practices, governance, and stewardship continue to be an essential part of this territory. We're grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and learn in this region, and we commit to fostering respectful relationships with the Inuit community. And we thank them for the ongoing stewardship of this land. So, having talked about that, what we're going to do is we divided this presentation up into four sections. Um, 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 JC will be starting off by presenting logistics, just to basically explain a little bit about how the trip was done, how it was organized, what we did, and what some of the considerations were. Then we'll get into the trip itself, starting off with the lakes that Lutz will be presenting. I'll talk about some of the rapids and the river section in between the lakes, and then Kathy will take over and talk about the remaining part of the river itself before coming back, and we'll do some final comments and conclusions. So, having said that, I guess we'll start with logistics, and we'll just move to JC right away. Understand that JC has to leave fairly soon after the presentation. So if you have any questions on logistics, we'll take a few short questions at the end of his section. JC, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. So this is a trip that took place on the Hood River from July 1st, 2025 till August 2nd. So we were on the river for 31 days last year. Why 31 days? Because we wanted to hike and fish as much as possible. The Hood River is located approximately 350 to 400 kilometers northeast of Yellowknife. You can see the distance from Yellowknife to the source of or at least the final destination where we landed. The landing site was Napatulik Lake. A little further south of where most people start, but we had more times on our hands than most, so we decided to start on the Napatulik Lake. It's a long flight, and I will go in a moment to explain the differences of various other rivers versus the Hood River. Next slide, Robert. So you can see here the Heart, the Wind, the Snake River, as well as the mountain and the Nahanni River. All of these rivers are closer to the town of Mayo, where most flights originate, and that explains to some degrees the lower cost that expeditions on the Heart, the Wind, the Snake, and to some degrees the Mountain River experience versus the Hood River. I will talk about the cost in a moment, but just so that you understand how should I say the distance, you have to simply focus on what you're seeing right now, the distance between Yellowknife and the Napatulik Lake where we started. Next slide. Again, from a technical point of view, the total distance is approximately 350 kilometers. I have seen numbers as high as 450 kilometers. Most people take 16 days to do so. We took 31 days, as I mentioned. There are some lots of difficulties. It's associated with this river, with the paddling this river. It's They were in our case very low water, so it was there was a lot of boulders to be had. There were sometimes lots of wind on the lakes. The portages were long at times, as long as 4 kilometers. One was 2 kilometers, and there were numerous, about 15 or 16 of them. And of course, it's a very remote area, so extra care had to be done when coursing through a rapid and so on and so forth. We had to stop many times to scout the rivers as well. The the Napatulik had basically was about 50 kilometers to the start of the Hood River. Um, at least, I mean, 50 kilometers to paddle on the Napatulik Lake. And we crossed various sections, various lake sections separated by rapids and falls and so on. And the river itself was close to 200 kilometers long, and we finished at on Bathurst Inlet at Bailey Bay near the Arctic Ocean. Next slide, Rob. Essentially, although the planning was done by Rob, mostly although using the George's droughts descriptions of the river, as well as Mary McCready's book on paddling the Northwest Territories rivers as well. He used many topo maps as well as CalTopo, and one of the things that Rob would like to emphasize is that he used as well the imagery from a site called Soar Atlas. Soar, what you can see on your screen, and that satellite imagery proved to be very, very helpful in discerning the level of ice on Napatulik Lake before we landed. Next slide, please, Robert. As you can see, hello, there is lots of ice on the lake on June 24th, as shown in white section. And almost 2 weeks later, on the far right corner, lower corner of the slides is the Napatulik Lake. 12 days after the first slide showed up, we landed on Napatulik Lake on July 1st, and there was enough free ice sections of the lake to land. But you can see why this imagery is important if you are going to fly in that neck of the wood as early as July 1st as well. Next slides, Rob. We met on June 27 in Yellowknife. We had an Airbnb, a nice little place to stay at and plan furthermore our trip. Rob is the first one at the table, and it's followed by Paul, Kathy, myself, and Lutz. Sean is basically the one taking the picture. So on July 1st, we flew to Napatulik. On August 2nd, 31 days later, we were picked up at Arctic Sound on Bathurst Inlet. And the team consisted of Lutz, the trip leader, as well as the five next people that you see on the screen as well. Furthermore, to our base camp in Yellowknife, and Rob, you can show the next slide. Our home away from home was the Wild Cafe. You can see all of us sitting down for a hearty meal that we all enjoyed very much at the Wildcat Cafe. If you ever are in Yellowknife, we all suggest that you pay them a visit. Again, next slide there, Rob. Again, the exterior of the Wildcat Cafe, built in the late 1930s, which offered excellent food served and prepared by the cook that you see on the far left corner. Wonderful place to have a great meal. Next slide, Rob. In terms of cost, basically you can see the itemized detail cost for each and every one for each section of our trip. First, starting with a canoe rental, then the charter flights. Charter flights basically consisted of the rental of two Cessna Caravan to basically take care of our weight, of our overall weight, which we estimated to be about 2,700 pounds. And also consists of the return flight by a single twin otter with a weight allowance of 2,200 pounds. Again, allowing for the lack of food that we all ate during the 31-day period. The Airbnb and the commercial flight, as itemized by Rob's flight to Ottawa, is also shown here. The total cost is estimated to be about $9,300 or so. It is high in comparisons to other trips, but as I mentioned, the flights themselves are took the major part of that was the major part of that cost. It cost approximately $42,000 to rent all aircraft, and if you divide that by six people, that amounts to by itself to about $77,000 or thereabouts or so. Next slide. Rob. You have any questions or any items you would like me to discuss furthermore on the logistics?
Yeah, Gary, I don't know if you can I can't see hands up or anything. So
Okay.
if there are any questions, please let me know and we'll try and address
Yeah,
them
I
quick
think
here
if people
before
just
Jason has to
unmute
take off.
themselves and ask the question, they'll pop up on the side here.
Or if not, save them for later and we can move on.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks
So I
very
will
much,
leave it at
JC.
that, and Rob will be the next host to talk about the lakes as well. So I will leave it at that and leave you all because I have to pick my sweetheart at the airport. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay. Take care.
Hi,
Hey, JC,
JC.
thanks.
Thank you.
You. Hi, JC.
Okay, good. Next section is going to be about the lakes and introduction to the Barrenlands and how we lived on the land out there. Lutz.
Hi, everybody. So for me, it was a second trip on the Hood River. The first trip I did back in 1999, 26 years earlier. Um, so, well, so we decided to land as far as possible, but on the north shore of the Napaktulik Lake from the Hood. So in the northwest corner, and had to paddle some 50 kilometers following the north shore to the portage to finally meet the lakes of the Hood River on top right of the left picture. As it was discussed already, there is ice on the lake. However, this is not a lot of ice. When we flew in on 1st of July, 26 years earlier, I flew in on the 10th of July and there was solid ice, really solid ice, only open water in the north and northeast because of the wind coming from north and west in Napaktulik Lake is ice-free first in the north, not in the south. So this is the very northeast corner, northwest corner. In the foreground, you see the island with our camp. And then you see the bay on the other side, a little bay where we had to land because the water at the island was too shallow for the pilot. And there was a nice beach, little beach on this bay. That So as you know, the uh, pilots are fast, so they land, drop you off, and start again. And we had to rebuild our canoes after nesting for transport. So the three of us in the first plane had two canoes with us. While waiting for the rest of the crew, we did already some fishing, and this was a very good spot. You see, the dinner was caught very quickly. You see the scale, the knife is 31 centimeter long, so it was really big fish in the lake. So second crew landing, Kathy took the canoe to transport all of the rest of the team to our island. And not only Rob was really happy to meet us again, and we had a few raindrops on the first day, a few mosquitoes, but the rest was sunshine, as most of the trip. This is our camp life. And of course, we did a lot of hiking. In this wonderful tundra area. Of course, and always starting, of course, with the canoeing for leaving our island. The main on end of June, beginning of July in the tundra are the flowers, blooming flowers everywhere for about 10 days, not longer. After the first 10 days, only a few flowers left over. But here we could enjoy the blooming. Here are some of the variances. For those who are interested in the names, on the next slide you see the names. And we did not only enjoy the floral splendor, but also the wildlife. Which is also a search and find picture here. And with the zoom, we could see our first caribou in bust. And our hiking team. I think Sean took the picture, so it's not seen here. There was a narrow on the land, not on the lake, on the land. So there were plenty of tracks of caribou, deep tracks like motorways, like caribou motorways. And of course, in this narrows, there was a lot of hunting. So we found many, many bones. Tundra countryside. and we saw these glacial erratics everywhere, big rocks on top of the ridges. And Kathy supported a rock,
Hmm.
and we saw the signs of the Inuit everywhere, the markers. And on this picture from a hill, you see our island where we had our camp, and the first 5 kilometers of our canoe trip to come to a narrow in the lake, and then further on the Nabaktulik to the next peninsula. We enjoyed the first 3 days camp life. And here, Kathy is cooking pizza for all of us. We enjoy it together with a sandpiper who was walking almost between our legs, almost, and watching at the snow geese on the lake. Midnight sun, beginning of July, so it's very close to the Arctic Circle here. And so the sun only hit behind this hill, not behind the horizon. Well, we spent there 4 nights at the first campsite. And after the 4 nights, we left the permanent inhabitants, eating our cookies. First day was a little bit rainy, but only a little bit. And we had the first challenge was an orientation exercise. In earlier days, we went around this peninsula only to discover that there was a really narrow spot, about 10 meters at almost the beginning of the peninsula, and this spot we were searching with the support of the map, but we had to check, or we left the canoe twice before finding this nice narrow spot where we could save a trip of about 16 kilometers around the peninsula. It was a wonderful campground. And a midnight hike on top of the ridge. So the whole peninsula formed by an esker by an esker. So you see
I think we might have lost Lutz. Yeah, maybe I'll back up to here and I'll keep on going myself.
Okay.
And then when Lutz comes back, he'll can take over again.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
while we're here on the esker, we did some beautiful hikes. This is a midnight hike. I was just absolutely stunned by the greenery and the life that we're finding in these eskers. It's beautiful. Flowers were completely unexpected, even with all the lots of black flies and mosquitoes on them. We spotted this hole in the ground. Guessing it might have been a meteorite impact. Don't really know for sure. Not sure we ever will, but anyway, it was pretty cool to find. Um, in this section, Lutz is talking about our camp life. And our days in camp typically would start off with fishing. And Lutz and often JC were fishing every morning and often every night and occasionally even over lunches and quick breaks. Fishing was actually very, very effective. He would try and limit himself to, I think, 3 or 4 casts and limit himself to whatever he caught in those casts. And there was often at least a fish or two. After fishing comes preparing food. We turn the canoes upside down often, and we use that as our prep table when it was available. Cooking. We had a combination of twig stoves, and so when we brought three twig stoves along, and the idea behind a twig stove is that you don't need to bring any fuel. You don't bring there's no gas, propane, propane, or anything else. All you're doing is loading it with twigs. Whenever we come into camp, we'll spend the first bit of time gathering twigs, but just fallen. Even though there aren't any trees, there's still twigs from dead willows. We use shears to cut them up and collect a big pile. And then once we have a big pile, we can start dinner. And we use the twigs out of these bags to light the stoves and get them going. Now we can use a single pot on a twig stove, and that worked out pretty well. When you wanted to do bigger meals, we put two side by side with a grill, and the pot goes on top of the grill, and that works quite effectively. We also had some whisper light stoves just as a backup, in case wood was either too dry or we were in a hurry or we needed something to go a little bit faster. Cleaning up. And often we had after dinner tea. We were able to pick the Labrador tea directly off the land. So on this one, this shows we did bring a bug tent along, and you'll see what the bugs were like a little bit later. Bugs can be horrendous, in which case a bug tent is actually quite useful. Also, when you're looking up at the sun, sometimes you can tell that the sun is getting obscured. That's a sign that there are forest fires in the south, and we're seeing the evidence of the smoke which is being produced from those fires. It's drifting all the way up to where we are. And we start paddling again. And as we're paddling here, I want to take a minute to talk about the weather. Warmest days were fairly calm and sunny. Highs in the low 20s and typical lows on the order of about 10 degrees or so. More typically, though, we were getting highs in the range of about 7 to 15 degrees or so, where average was probably about 10, 11, 12, with lows close to zero. Most of the days were relatively calm, or a lot of the days were relatively calm, and in which case we could take advantage of it and go fishing. Of course, when it's calm, that also means buggy. Then occasionally the wind would pick up. Then when the wind picks up, it chases the bugs away, but then it becomes got a little brings its own issues with it. So and while most of the time it was warmish, we did get some days of snow. When the wind did start to blow, we found that our bug tent wasn't really up to the standard, it wasn't quite resilient enough to be able to handle the wind. Often the bug tent in this wind would just collapse, the poles would collapse and take the whole thing down. Tents were also a little bit problematic. Our tents weren't super well designed for wind, but they survived quite well anyway. Of course, when the wind stopped, that's when the bugs came back out again. That's when you wanted the bug tent. So you either get one or the other. As we started to paddle, came across a friend. It's a champagne-colored grizzly bear. Now there's our champagne bear. This is a section where we want to talk a little bit about wildlife. We saw We saw the grizzly, obviously. We saw some caribou, not a lot. We probably saw maybe 3 or 4 caribou total. We did not see any muskox, unfortunately, and that was a big disappointment for us all. We didn't see wolves, although we did see a lot of tracks of wolves. And on the day that the plane came in to pick us up, the pilot noticed a couple of wolves on the ridge up and behind us, or not very far away from us, although we didn't actually see them. But there were lots around, and they were quite close. The Muskox Trail. Lutz had mentioned before there was a trail created by caribou or muskox. This is part of their migration routes in the way through this land. Flowers were absolutely stunning. In this case, this is fireweed. Now, we paddled as far across Napik as we could. And when we came to the end of the lake, we tried to keep on paddling, but we ran out of water. So which prompted the portage. There's a short portage, ran across a short section of water, and then another longer 2 kilometer portage. Fortunately, in going across the tundra, it makes it hard to carry a pack because the ground isn't necessarily solid. It can often be very spongy, very wet. In some areas it's dry, but so it's hard to carry a pack. It's easy to bring canoes. You can we just set up a bit of a harness and we pulled the canoes along directly over the grass. As long as the canoes are unloaded, it doesn't do any damage to them because there's very little friction with the grass. There's very little contact with the actual ground. And this was our camp at the end of the portage. And a few other shots of our typical camp life. This is us setting up for dinner. There's a tent. We set up a laundry line. We improvised a little bit and used tripod to be able to set up a line tripod attached to the side of a tent. And we come into Cave Lake. And one of the interesting features on Cave Lake was that we saw some really great um, reflections along the shore, which created all kinds of really interesting patterns in the water, beautiful reflections. Anyway, yeah, sorry. Where were we? Yeah. As we're going along there, we found this beautiful Inukshuk. Not sure what it reminded me of, but it was actually very cool. And our last campsite of this section was here, and we just sat out there and enjoyed a beautiful sunset. As we move in towards the middle of the presentation, we're starting to see less and less light. The sun is actually now dropping below the horizon, and we're starting to get real sunsets. So now that was sort of Lutz's part of the presentation. I'll move on to mine here. Apologize I was getting some phone calls. That was actually Lutz trying to get back in. So when we talk about this section, we talked before and showed a lot of images of Napik Lake. It's when you come to the end of Napik, this is where most trips on the Hood River typically start, right about here. And from that point on, it's a series of lakes. It's one long, very thin lake, which goes all the way through here. Tahika Faluk Lake, also known as Lake 414. If you go through the maps, you'll find that most of these lakes have numbers rather than names, and the number corresponds to the elevation in meters above sea level. So that allows them people to distinguish them. But for starting from about this point here, you now have a series of isolated lakes all the way through here, coming through all of these sections, and these isolated lakes are bridged by a series of fairly shallow areas. In which case, here we now have there's a river flows through them, connecting them. There's usually rapids and sometimes waterfalls. On this map, the rapids are marked. The flags indicating class 4 or 5 or higher rapids. This is where we'll be doing a mandatory portage. The pins correspond to class 1 to class 3, which are often navigable, and we're trying to run them. So now that you've seen what that looks like from the map, this is the view of the same area from the summit of Warner Falls. We look back towards this way, and here's where you're seeing Lake 414. And you see that lake emptying in through. There's a rapid here into a lake, goes across. There's another rapid here. There's a third rapid here coming into this part here. There's another rapid separating this section and into here. Then once you get to this lake, we now have, this is Warner Falls emptying into this lake. And then moving on through another rapid into another lake. And then the lakes continue and the rapids continue all the way through here out towards the Wolf Lake. So this is what the landscape actually looks like. Yeah, sorry. The rapids themselves, most of these are sort of class 2 and 3, at least in this section. Some of them are runnable. And based on people's own abilities, some people decide to try and run them. Some of them were lined, some were portage, depending on our the weather and our skill and our confidence level on any given day. But we went through all possible combinations. Coming into Warner Falls, as I mentioned, there were a lot of the other ones were runnable. This is a section where the water level is so low that it's very, very rocky in here, and this would be very hard to get through in a canoe, so probably not runnable. But what makes the real distinction is that a little bit lower down you come here, and this is what makes it a mandatory portage. Warner Falls, by the way, was beautiful. And we spent a lot of time there just hanging out and photographing the scenes. It's a great waterfall. We set up cameras below it to be able to give us access and come over and continue photographing as the light changed. Next morning, we took off and started going. This is Wilderness Bound. Come on through one of the next rapids just to be able to show what it looks like. You can see that there's a lot of rocks. Most of the rapids that we're encountering here, and these are all boulder gardens, where you're trying to navigate from one rock to another, and you're working your way through it. Now, often you have some success, especially if you can see the rocks, but often you can't. And when you can't see the rocks necessarily, bad things can happen. Um, as you were coming down through some of these rapids, this is in fact Long Rapid. You can look at the shore, and when you look at the shore, you notice that first of all, it's very rocky, and second, often it's very high. So if you're coming through here in a canoe, and if you were to spill, there's very few eddies, and there's very few opportunities to get out and start to line or start to recover once you started. So if you decide to run, you're basically committed. You've got to come all the way through. Again, this shows this is still another section of Long Rapid. You can see the shore. It's not conducive to lining. You're up fairly high. There's often a lot of willows which are on right the shore that are really hard to step through. You can't see where your footing is. Rock gardens can be fun. They can be challenging. We work our way through some of these, and some we have absolutely no problem. It's just a good time. However, sometimes when you're going through here, you can also miss, and when you miss, bad things happen. In this, In this case, the canoe ended up getting pinned against a rock. So fortunately we had some we had brought two deep pin kits and with the knowledge to be able to use it effectively. So we first of all set up an anchor point on a rock. There weren't any trees in the area, obviously, so we have to kind of improvise and use rocks. And we set up a 3-to-1 Z drag and use that to try and pull the canoe off. And the canoe didn't budge. So we had a second D-pin kit. We grabbed two more pulleys and we created a 5-to-1 Z drag now. So basically we can use 5 times or multiplied our force by a factor of 5 to be able to, we can apply to the canoe. We found a couple of tent poles or poles rather that we used for the bug tent, and this reduced the friction because the ropes had to go up over the rock then down to where the anchor was. We were able to take a lot of that friction off it, which helped certainly enormously. And then tied the canoe to the Z drag and started pulling. And when we pulled sort of in this direction, we found that we were able to pull the canoe off of that rock and then change the angle such that the water is now flowing only through the end rather than pushing the whole body of the canoe against the rock. So the canoe is now no longer pinned, and it made it a little bit easier to get out. Now we just move the anchor point directly in front and we pulled the canoe straight out this way, came up over the rock, and we're able to free it. So pretty good success. If anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, I highly recommend you take the rescue course where you'll learn this and a lot of other really, really useful stuff. But I think it's a prerequisite for anybody going on these northern trips to become self-sufficient and learn some of these skills. While we're doing this, of course, it wasn't windy at all, which was kind of nice in a sense, but also we were battling swarms of mosquitoes and black flies. Not a whole lot of fun. In fact, the bugs were so bad in this area that we kind of got eaten alive while we weren't wearing bug shirts and things. Um, uh, one interesting thing happened. We set up our bug tent, and with the bug tent set up, we'd set it up, but with the door open. So once we got it set up, all the flies immediately came in and it gets some nice shelter from the sun. We were fortunate though in the sense that all these bugs were seeking out the sun and they sort of accumulated in the top of the tent, so thereby staying away from us. We managed to we managed to chase them all out and enjoyed a really nice dinner afterwards, bug free. Continuing down the river, we come into Black Feather Falls, enjoyed a beautiful sunset there. This is what the actual fall looked like. Not particularly impressive, but there was enough rocks and boulders and stuff to make it unrunnable, and we had to portage. Kapalak Rapid, another major boulder garden, a lot of boulders right at the level of water. Very hard to see in spots. Sean did a really great run here and was able to work his way through it. Shows how it was done. We tried to follow him and we took a bit of a wrong turn, missed. If you do miss the route, sometimes you find yourself blocked in just by boulders. You're not pinned or anything. The canoe wasn't a problem, but once you get stuck, you have to sort of stop, unload a lot of gear, take the weight off, move the canoe over or around the rocks, and then jump back in again. When we tried to do this, one of the things that we realized is that the water level itself is often waist or if not chest deep high. So that can be a hazard in itself. The rocks that you see here, these are massive. But we did eventually come to the end. We worked our way through it, and this is us celebrating the end of the lake section, and now we're moving on into the river. So now I can pass it over to Kathy.
Thanks, Rob. Welcome, everybody. And Rob, you can go directly to the first slide. This is the river section after the lakes. So we have left the interconnected lakes, the last one being Esker Lake, you can see on the left-hand map. This is a long section, approximately 195 kilometers. You will see the main points that I'll be speaking about are on the map here: Skull Rapid Mason, Caribou Crossing, all of the ones listed. It's such a large river that we're just pointing out the main attractions. Again, the red pins are C1 to 3 rapids. Black flags are C4, C5 mandatory portages. To the right, you'll just see the close-up of the section that I'll be speaking about. So here we are, starting our journey on the Hood. We have about 3 kilometers of a very nice flat water paddle, and you can see we are surrounded by gorgeous eskers. And this view here will give you some perspective of how narrow the river is through this section. Quite a lovely paddle and beautiful views to enjoy. And here we see the top end of Skull Rapid and the bottom of the rapid, a portage. And you can see how rocky the portage was. The footing was poor. It was a bit of a tough one to do footing wise to get around that section. And we're very grateful that Rob brought along his cooking unit for us, his Outback oven, and made us a lovely meal. It was a layover rain day. We did, however, take advantage of hiking. This is Skull Rapid. You can see it in the background there, and our tents where we set up. So we set up before the rapids so that we could take advantage of hiking the eskers for several kilometers. And here's another view of our esker hike. In the upper right-hand photo, you can see the end of Skull Rapids. You can also see somebody hiking. If you squint really hard. This is the put in at the end of Skull Rapids. And what is interesting about this photo is as we were paddling along, there were fish jumping everywhere. Everywhere we looked, they were just leaping through the air and back down again. It was quite interesting. Never seen that before. Worthy of mentioning. This will be a video, but I'll dodge older here. rapids going through some massive waves. Doing it from a video isn't nearly as fun as when you're in the middle of it. It was a great run, Sean, and I think he had some bailing to do after that. Here we are. You can see our takeout at the top of Mason Rapid. You can see our canoes in the lower left hand. We're about to portage, and luckily for us, we had a nice caribou trail that we could take advantage of. Video. You can see Rob there for scale. So before you start this video, I will mention I cannot say that name. So you can read it and say it to yourself. But there are two chutes here. They are 200 meters apart. In the background, you can see chute number B, chute B, and then chute A. It is it's a C3 rapid, short C3, a recommended portage just for the fact that the falls themselves are 1 kilometer downstream. And as you watch the video, you'll notice that there's not much chance to self-rescue if you happen to flip. You'll see that the high steep walls, and also at the end of this video, it doesn't show, but there was a very small area on River Right to eddy out, just a very small area. So a sense of danger there doing this shoot, but here is Lutz and Rob paddling it. Well done. And view of above the falls. And below the falls. We set up camp at the bottom of the falls amongst some very thick willows. But it was a beautiful and scenic opportunity for us to enjoy the splendor of the falls and the surrounding area. Nice rainbow. Here we come to the confluence of the Wright River as it flows into the Hood River. This is a drone shot, and it's a little bit deceiving. At river level, as you approach it, you only see the top fall at the bottom here. But as you start climbing the rocks up, you realize there's waterfall after waterfall, and it's really it's an amazing hike. And you can see me there. For context, the water is very powerful. The rock formations are amazing too. You can't really see them in these slides, but they were quite mesmerizing. And here we are looking down on the hood. You can see we had a bit of a challenge. There's a hood there. We had a bit of a challenge going up and around to get to the waterfalls. A lot of rock that we had to scramble over, but it was well worth it. We also had the opportunity to look for tentering sites. We knew that they were there on a ridge overlooking the hood. So we spent some time searching them out. We feel this was a possible one. You can see it's an open area, and there's a little, the dark area in the center, we thought was perhaps dug out and then refilled with rocks, maybe a food cache. But just based on the open area and the scattering of the rocks all around it, we felt that we had found one. And here we have a rapid identified as a C1, but class 1 rapid doesn't typically look like that. It's a boulder garden. If you happen to flip is what happened here. Next slide. You will see the river will grab your canoe and take it for a ride. In this instance, it went 2 kilometers, 2 kilometers downstream, around the corners, through a rapid, and finally beached itself. Luckily to say, the canoe was unharmed, and we got all of our gear back, I think minus a paddle. So that's a risk worthy of noting. Okay, Caribou Crossing Rapid. To get to this point from last slide, we have traveled approximately 77 kilometers through the river itself increased through a series of C1, C2 rapids, some very big waves, and technical maneuvering. It wasn't possible to scout most times, so we merely ran it one after the other, sometimes successful, sometimes not, but we made it to Caribou Crossing here. And here is a photo from that Lutz took back in '99 when he did the Hood River. And you'll notice if you look between these 2 big boulders, you'll see a very significant water flow through them and all around them. And there's a reference line from '99. And one from 2005. And that is really quite a big drop in water levels. Here we are arriving at Wilberforce Gorge and Falls. Again, I cannot say that name, but this is what it is called now. You can see where our takeout is. You'll also notice the rapids right behind our canoes, those are going to push you right over the falls. So there was no margin for error when we eddied out here to our takeout. Yep, and yeah, we had to walk way and around, and it was quite the hike. This, I believe, is a video, but before it starts, you can see the beautiful red rock. Pictures don't do it justice. It's quite mesmerizing when you see it. You can see in the distance one of our canoes. You'll notice how close we were to the rapids leading to the falls. The falls themselves is a 60-meter drop and about 3 kilometers long. There's actually 2 drops in the falls, which we'll see during the video. And that drop there. From this still shot, you can see that it's very difficult to get to the edge and look over. There's a lot of scree, loose rock, willows, so it's difficult to properly photograph. Thankfully for Rob's drone, we can get some nice views of it. I will mention that you can also hike on either side of it, which we did. And you can see our drone pilot there, Rob, just for scale. And you can imagine just how big this gorge is. And we start a 4-kilometer portage around it. We made several passes with our gear. I know I did 4. And it was challenging to say the least, up and down eskers and through thick willows and no clear path that we could follow. We just made our own. Lutz on the way back. So on the way back, we took advantage of looking at the falls, checking them out, and giving ourselves a little bit of a break as we walked back to get more gear. Descending the canyon. You can cut the portage in half by 2 kilometers, if you so wish, by running the lower half of the canyon. So you will see on the left-hand screen the circle. This is Sean. I'll tell you at the very top of the canyon, it's full of very, very thick willows. And then as you start descending down it, it's full of very loose scree. So if you've ever hiked in scree, you know it just crumbles beneath your feet. And you can see the how steep it is to get down there. That is the only way to get down. And on the right screen, you'll see he made it. And that was an adventure in itself, I think. This is I'm not sure if this is a video or not, I can't remember, but this is a view of what you would run if you ran the lower half of the rapids. Notice that if you did happen to tip, you're going for a long ride down until it flushes out at the bottom. There's no chance of getting up those steep cliff walls, and very little areas even to eddy out to take a break. These are views of our camp at the bottom of the falls. On the right-hand corner, you'll see our canoes, of course, and Rob's kite that Lutz named the Dragon. So Rob's kite, an interesting story. Rob has been many places around the world, and this kite has gone with him to every one of them. So he's had this kite for about 25 years, and this was the first time he flew it at our camp at Wilberforce. Pretty exciting. Noticing our tents here, in the background, you will see whoops, just flip back one. Beyond our tents on the river there, you'll see Wilberforce Rapids. That's a C3 rapid. You can see by the landscape, you can't scout it. So we just simply ran it, and that was a fun ride. And here we get to Ragged Rock Falls. We portaged, not a long portage on River Right, and you can see our camp down below. Another view of our camp. In the eskers in behind. A nice sandy beach, not always fun camping on sand for obvious reasons, but we took advantage of this sandy beach to have a swim and clean up a little bit. In the far right, you can see Sean sitting by the fire, and we were thrilled to discover a lot of driftwood and our first real fire in quite some time. It was a thrill for sure. Lutz is about to embark on a fishing excursion near the falls. And catch of the day. Not sure what type of fish this was. Mostly it was lake trout, but this one seemed different. It was some big whitefish, super big, super heavy. JC is holding it, and the last fish caught on the Hood River, and it's about to become dinner. Here you see we are using the canoe as a windbreak to cook supper. Noticing on the river there, the wind is picked up a little bit, and we're not in a very protected area, so very susceptible to the wind where we camped. This is the sunset on the evening before. And we were keeping close watch on our in reaches, checking the weather. We knew the wind was picking up, and sure enough, we could not paddle out the next morning. And this video will show you the strength of the wind. It was blowing our tents down. We actually had to take our tents down so that the poles would not snap.
Oh, God, take a look at the box.
We waited out the winds. We did some hiking, and here we are. I believe it's 8 p.m. at night. You can see how beautifully calm it is in this clip. It's getting dusk. We stopped near the James River. It was just 2 kilometers downstream to fill up a 30-liter barrel with fresh water. Um, Beyond this, excuse me, the river becomes very silty, and with the possibility of salt in it as well. So it was important that we filled up that 30-liter barrel. And also to note, there's very little campsites along here. So we arrived around 1 a.m. We camped on the ledge at Hepburn Rapid. This is the following morning, or the same morning, I could say. Happy Rob, last portage of our trip right there. It was a short one, but a lot of rocks that we had to navigate over, and the slick rock in the foreground on the left pictures, they were very slippery. So it was a bit of a tricky a short but tricky portage. This is our last camp on the Hood. It was 2 to 3 kilometers downstream from Hepburn Rapids. However, it was very shallow, sandy water, and we had to pick our route through it. We often got grounded on the sand and then would a sandbar, and then would have to back up and try a different way. So we picked our way there. We finally made it and set up camp. This is where the plane will pick us up. And you'll see here by this map, we needed to have, you'll see the Hepburn Rapid Camp, our final camp on the Hood River there. We needed that protected area for the plane to land. The water needed to be deep enough, and we needed to ensure that it was in an area that wasn't going to be affected by high winds. Therefore, that was the best spot to be picked up. And you'll see by the yellow lines, we did a hike, 2 kilometer, I think, hike to Bailey Bay at Bathurst Inlet. The site of the cabin, Rob tried to find it with his drone and wasn't successful. So not sure if that cabin still exists or not. We didn't see it. And here we are, a drone shot of us at Bailey Bay. There's Rob flying the Dragon over the Arctic Ocean. A drone view to the north, and you can see the Arctic Ocean in the back there. This was an interesting find as we were hiking back we happened to notice, and you can see it in the red circle in the upper left in that little white spot. And we suspected it was a marker. So we hiked up there, and sure enough, there was a food cache there, a very well-made one. So a very exciting find, definitely. So here you can see the marker and pointing directly at the food cache. That was I think just a luck of the draw find to discover that. So here we are waiting for the plane. We're in a tidal area here, and we soon discovered we needed to pull the canoes up a fair bit before they got swept away. A lovely, actually a lovely camp. We saw a few tracks, and we were tired though, I have to say. I certainly was tired by the time we got there. And here we are all safe and warm and tucked away and inside the plane, looking forward to a hot home cooked meal at the Wildcat Cafe and maybe a couple beverages. I think we're ready for that. That was our 31 days.
That sounds like a great trip.
So final thoughts, I can turn it back to Rob. Unfortunately, Lutz, he sent a message that he has computer problems or network problems. I can turn it back to Rob and Rob, if you have some final thoughts.
Sure. I guess there's a couple of things I wanted to say as the final thoughts. First of all, speaking for myself, when you hear talk of the Barren Lands, the name sort of conjures up an environment which is dry, empty, dull, boring, barren, in a word. When you get there, you find it's anything but. The tundra is alive. It's beautiful to see in terms of all the different shades of green, and going through and looking at how the people live and survive there. Seeing the profusion of life that are represented by the wildflowers, seeing the animals flying through there, everything is very short. Things don't last long. But as a result, but when they do come to bloom, they just burst so much more exuberantly. It is an absolutely stunning landscape. The way we did this trip, where most people will do it in about 16 days. We took 31. And the idea is that we wanted to spend almost a day hiking and exploring for every day that we spent paddling. And to me, this is absolutely the best way of doing it. I'd highly recommend it for anybody else. The paddling was great. Rapids were challenging. A lot of rapids. A lot of which are normally fairly easy class 1, 2 rapids. Became much more challenging and more technical at the low water levels. So that was a lot of fun to be able to problem solve and work through those. But for me, the best times were actually on land and hiking and exploring the barren lands. It was absolutely stunning. I'd highly recommend, if you haven't seen it, get back there if you can. I'd also want to take a minute. JC and had to leave. Lutz had some technical problems. Paul isn't able to make it. Sean might talk. I'm not sure. Sean will give you an opportunity in a sec. But I will put in a little bit of a plug here. Sean's comments, he was very eloquent in his article in Nestogan. I'd recommend you reading it. It's quite beautifully written and explains a lot about what we've seen and came across on our trip. At the same time, we sort of referenced Sean's descent down the lower half of the Wilberforce. He created a video which I've linked to here. You can take a look at it on your own time. Anyway, Sean, if you want to speak and say a few final thoughts, you certainly have the floor if you want to take it. I noticed he was in the crowd today. Other than that, if not, I'll pass you back to Kathy for some of her final thoughts.
I guess everyone has their own reasons for, doing challenging trips like this. I know why I wanted to go. There were a few spots that stood out to me. One was Wright River. The other one was Cave Lake. I think that was my most enjoyed area that we paddled. It was a very calm day. The weather was beautiful, and the water was capturing the reflection from the rocks. And as I paddled by them, they looked like faces to me. I could see images in them, and that got me to thinking that, the people that lived on that land, the people that lived there, and they didn't just do an adventure trip, this was their life. And they're not there now, but those images that I saw as we paddled past on Cave Lake, I felt that they are still there. So that was very, spiritual moment for me, and probably the highlight of my trip. Finding the cache was also right up there. Wilberforce, Falls and Canyon, you hear a lot about it. So it's the little things, it's the little finds, it's the small adventures that you get along the way that is what makes the trip, well worth it. I recommend, if you want to do hard stuff, get out and do hard stuff. It's don't hesitate. Life is short.
Excellent.
And Wilberforce Falls, by the way, is arguably one of the coolest places on the planet, especially when you have it yourself. So if you haven't been, go see it.
All right, maybe you can open it up to questions now for maybe 10
Yep,
minutes or so.
yep. There you
If
go.
you stop sharing for a bit, then we could see everybody.
This is John Brace. Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Please do.
Pardon my ignorance of the distribution of Canadian fauna, but were polar bears ever something for you to worry about?
There weren't any polar bears in that area. It's not part of their normal habitat there.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I've got a question. On the actual rapids, did you wear your dry suits or did you just go with, you know, shells and whatever?
Dry
Cork-
suits, dry suits all the way.
Okay.
We spent a lot of time in the water,
Okay.
either pulling our canoes along or if there was a bit of a spill. And even though you have your dry suit on, you can feel the cold pressing against you.
Yeah.
So and you could see there was ice on the lake, so very cold rivers. There was a couple of nights that I was very chilly.
Okay.
I think while everyone else had dry suits, I had a separate dry pants and top, and that worked out fine for me. I spilled a couple of times, and what I found is that when you're in moving water, the water will compress the seal between the pants and the top, and water doesn't get in. It's when you're in fairly still water, that's where it tends to leak a little bit.
And can you talk about the bugs you mentioned when it's windy is great, but then there's wind, so you have tent issues. The tents you had, were they Four Seasons or just like hubba hubba kind of things?
I had a 3-season tent and I camped in that. I've winter camped in it.
Mm.
I camped on the Heart River in it. It's actually it's a cheap little nature hike, but
Mm.
it seems to work great. I have a 4-season tent now, but I did not take it with me because it's heavy. I
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
take my lighter tent.
yeah. Because I could see the winds like a hubba hubba just folds into a pretzel, when it's side winds, which is a problem because you could break poles, as you said.
Yeah, only that one wind day, and we had several.
Mm.
I was in my tent and it was kind of collapsing down on me, and I'm trying
Yeah,
to push it back up, and that's when I decided to take it down and save my poles.
Yeah.
yeah.
But that was the only time, and we weren't protected at all on that beach
Mhm.
area. We had the eskers behind us, but that's not where the wind was coming from in front of us.
Yeah.
But mine held up pretty well.
Okay. And what would you recommend for bug, jackets or caps or whatever?
Get the good one. I
Yeah.
had like a cheaper one, and like the jacket itself was okay. But the hood part, I couldn't see through it. So invest in, a better or top of the line bug jacket.
Yeah.
Test it first that you can see through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
Especially
why
in the
my face
rapids.
looked like that. I couldn't put my net down.
Right.
I took a brunt of bug bites there, black fly bites.
I found a bug hat was essential. There are some times when it just gets really nasty and they start digging into your ears and into the back of your neck and stuff, and it's painful if you don't have a bug hat.
Yeah.
I didn't find it necessary to have a full bug shirt, just because frankly it's not that warm. You've got probably some Gore-Tex layers on or some other stuff. Most of the rest of your skin is protected. The idea is that you want to protect your face, neck, ears, all those sort of little cranny
Mhm.
areas where the bugs will tend to accumulate.
Right.
For bug, on the days when I put bug dope on, it actually worked pretty well as well. So it was given a choice between like a hat or bug dope. Well, sometimes it went one way, sometimes the other. It depends if I was eating, I'd go with the bug dope. If I was just paddling, I'd wear a hat. I don't like to wear the stuff if I don't need to. The
Yeah.
bug dope, I mean.
The
Yeah. I know.
black flies, the black flies are the worst though. Mosquitoes, I kind of became immune to them after a while, but the black flies, they get in anywhere, up your shirt sleeves,
Yeah.
and you don't know until you start feeling like that burning sensation that you've been chewed up pretty good.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're nasty little critters and they can relentless.
Okay. And when you were in your little bug tent, were you cooking like in the tent?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the smoke kind of drives them up, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, they tend to. It's funny when mosquitoes get in your tent, they'll still bite you.
Mhm.
But black flies, when they're in your tent, they kind of hover near the roof of the tent for some reason, and they're super easy to squish. So if you have the time, you can squish them all before you fall asleep.
Yeah. No, I was
But
talking about your bug tent when you're
yeah,
outside, like cooking and stuff. You're all in the bug tent
yeah,
basically,
yeah, yeah.
and around your twig stoves. I really
Yeah.
like the idea of the twig stoves. That sounds like a good thing. And
I
did
mean,
you
there's
guys
lots of
cook group meals or was it all individual kind of meals?
it was all group
All
meals.
group, right?
I
Okay.
mean, we had our own snacks and river snacks and things like that.
Mm,
But breakfast and supper were group meals, and when necessary, yes, we cooked in the bug tent. We could all
mm,
squeeze in there, and it worked out well. A lot of willow branches is mainly what you cut.
mm.
Um, it does take some time to sit there and cut them. So if you have like a rain day or if you're super tired and you're gonna sit and cut for, half an hour and pass off the shears to somebody else, like that's the only drawback. But as far as efficiency, they work great.
So
And it
to
keeps it
feed
heavy.
the stove, did you have to lift the pot and put in the wood or?
Yep.
Initially we did, Rob, were we lifting the pots off?
Yep.
I can't remember. We were lifting them off. We
Yeah,
weren't
you have to
popping
feed it
them
from the
in.
top.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
There
because
there
they're
are
gonna
other ones
My
last.
cheap
around that
stove,
where
I
you
can
feed
poke
from
it
the
in.
bottom and you don't need to do that. But we didn't
Yeah,
have one of those.
But it had a
The
battery though,
yeah,
so it
the one nice
circulated
thing about
air.
it, yeah, it had a fan with a battery,
Yeah.
so that provided a lot of ventilation through it. So it kept it burning pretty hot, and they're pretty easy to light with just a fire cube and a couple of twigs and get the fan going.
Yeah, excellent. So I'll open it up to anybody else who wants to jump in with questions.
The hiking, was it fairly dry or did you have a lot of wet spots? Or were there quite a bit of tussocks you had to deal with?
Yes, all of the above.
Muskeg, that stuff is so hard to hike on because it's in these nice little lumps, and even if you try and balance on top of the lumps, it's impossible. Your foot slips into the water, so always wet feet, a lot of wet feet for sure.
Did you
Yeah, that
bring
was where the dry pants came in handy. Because I
yeah,
can hike in the dry pants,
yeah.
then your feet and legs stay completely dry.
Mm. Yeah, I was gonna ask, did you bring boots or just running shoe type of hiking?
For myself, I often hiked in the dry pants with my water shoes, actually,
Okay.
and
Yeah, because
that
you
was
didn't
fine.
care because yeah, the water shoe protects the
Yep,
boot of the pants
yep.
and you're waterproof. Okay, excellent.
Yeah, I think I had hiking shoes with me because I have a good pair. But it depended on the situation.
Yeah.
If I was in like my dry suit, then I just left my water shoes on because that's such a nuisance to take
Yeah,
it on and off
right.
and change. So it just depended.
Hmm.
How many joined our meeting?
It peaked out at 51, I think.
Oh man,
Nice.
we didn't
I
beat the
don't
old
know. I think it
record.
was 52 was the record last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, only nine of my friends came.
And it's because Lutz dropped off.
Ah, okay.
I don't know. No, actually, it's a big crowd, so it's good. Um,
Yeah.
I'll just maybe jump in and say, okay, I think we're kind of wrapping it up, but the next presentation's in about a month, well, not even 3 weeks, and it's the Hidden Secrets of the Agua River by Eric Thompson. So it's a kind of a different twist on the Jeff McCool gave two presentations in the last 2 weeks or so on the Group of Seven. Eric's going to touch on all the other aspects of the Agua Canyon, the logistics of the trip, the logging, and some of the Group of Seven stuff on his perspective. So I put the link in the chat. Put it on your calendars, and then I'll ping everybody a day or two before. And then if anybody that you know has missed this presentation, there's an hour and a half. It's going to be on YouTube in a couple days, so you can always watch it again. So thanks very much, Rob Lutz, who's offline, Kathy, and JC, that's on the way to the airport. It was excellent presentation.
Great job.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
All right.
And Gary,
Yeah.
I'll see you on the Moira River.
Oh, okay. Yes, of
Yeah.
course, we're going to have events. So there's a credit coming
And
up. I think there's also the Toronto Rouge River I'm running.
that one's far for me, but the Moira and the
Yeah,
Salmon
Moira
River.
slash Upper Salmon, we've got
Yeah, yeah,
that on the agenda.
yeah.
And, keep your eyes out for the calendar because there's always trips coming up this time of the year.
Gary, we've got the AGM on Saturday for
Oh,
anybody in the Greater
of
Toronto
course.
area
Yeah,
at MEC North York on Shepherd. So if you're
yeah.
available,
And the
11 a.m.
big draw there is we get 15% off, but you got to sit through 1 hour of AGM.
But there's
That
a
include online?
map and compass session too,
Oh, is there? Okay. Is
following
that
the
before or
AGM.
after?
It's after.
After, okay.
So doors open at MEC at 10. The AGM will be at 11. We're going to try to keep it under an hour. You got a map and compass session if you're interested, and then you're set loose in the corridors of MEC.
Mhm.
Set loose to shop
The shop.
with
Oh, you draw.
15%
Free,
off.
you get a
I mean,
discount.
it is
Yeah.
worth it. I bought once a dry suit and it was 10%. So 10% of a dry suit, that's $2,000. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You're basically knocking off the tax. Now, in this case, it's 15%. So that's a pretty good deal.
Yep.
Could be worth a couple $100 to members. Yeah.
I like to think I have most of my gear, so I tend to stay away from
It
that
never
type of
happens
shopping.
that way.
I didn't even go to the Toronto Outdoor Show
Yeah.
this winter because I'm like, no, no,
Yeah.
no. I think I have all my gear and I know I'm going to impulse buy.
Yeah. Well,
I
I'm looking at a tent, so you're talking a couple $100 there, 500 maybe. I was asking about the tent and the wind because I was on the
Yeah.
Mackenzie 2 years ago. My tent was like turning into a pretzel, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
It's an MSR and it's just the wind. Oh man, I thought things were gonna break. It was so violent. Yeah. So I'm looking at a stronger tent, even though it's heavier.
Yeah, I guess because we were so limited by weight on
Yeah.
this because they had to refuel,
Yeah.
like we were counting ounces on
Yeah. Yeah.
everything, and I also knew I had to carry it. So I
Yeah.
think I
That's
had
the
the
other, a lot
lightest
of
pack
portaging on this trip. Yeah.
of everybody
Mhm.
because I knew I was the one carrying them.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Just one more question, Kathy and Rob. In the Twin Otter, you had 3 canoes. So did you have you would have a Prospector 16 that was disassembled, then you would nest a Pocket Canyon in the next one, or what were the 3 canoes?
um I think we had two 17-foot prospectors, and I
17.
think the
Yeah.
third one was 16 foot. I can't remember whether it was a prospector or a canyon. I think it was I think it was a
I
16-foot
think
prospector,
they were
and
all
the 16-foot
prospectors.
boat nested into the 17s without any problem.
Mhm.
And then how long did it take for you to pull out some tools and get the seats and everything back in?
It's what, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour or so to put it all
Perfect.
together. It's not that long.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah,
I
as
mean,
long as you don't lose the screws, that's the important thing. Bring along a baggie and put them somewhere safe.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks very much again. I think we'll sign off.
Thanks. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
bye.
See you tomorrow night, Gary.
Yep, okay, sure.
Thanks.
Ciao.
Good night.
Good night.
good night.
Good night. That was great, Rob.
Well, good. Glad you liked. It was I think it ended up running a little bit long. I don't know how long the whole thing
Yeah,
took
you're
in the
going
end,
for
but
the record on length.
am I really? Oh no.